Stop everything and breathe. Because what you are about to witness isn't just a headline. It is the sound of a mother's soul breaking in two. Imagine a world where your husband's legacy and your son's future are staring down the barrel of a life sentence. A world where the secrets buried under your floorboards are about to be excavated by your greatest enemy. This is the tragedy of Tiny Harris. For years we whispered about the secret nights with 50 Cent. We judged her. We mocked her. But today, the veil of silence has been ripped away to reveal a truth so agonizing, it will leave you in tears. Tiny didn't walk into that room for herself. She walked into the lion's den to buy back the lives of the men she loves. She traded her own dignity, her own peace, and her very spirit to bury the evidence that would have sent T.I. and King Harris to a cage forever. It was a mother's ultimate silent sacrifice, a secret night meant to end a war. But instead of mercy, she found the ultimate betrayal. 50 Cent didn't just take her peace. He took her story and turned it into a spectacle. As the world watches the fallout of a family in ruins, ask yourself, how far would you go to save the ones you love? Prepare your hearts, because the Harris household is no longer a kingdom. It's a graveyard of secrets. The world of hip-hop is no stranger to beef. We've seen the diss tracks, the Twitter wars, and the club altercations. But what was happening behind the gold-plated doors of the Harris estate in the early months of 2026 wasn't a rap battle. It was a slow-motion execution of a family's peace. To the public eye was the King of the South, a man of unshakable pride. To the world, King Harris was a rebellious son, wild and unfiltered. But to 50 Cent they were targets. And he held the ultimate weapon. For months, rumors had been swirling that 50 Cent had obtained the vault. A collection of encrypted files, deleted security footage, and witness statements that didn't just hint at trouble, they guaranteed it. We are talking about evidence that linked T.I. to cold cases and federal investigations that were supposedly buried decades ago. We are talking about footage of King Harris that would have ended his freedom before his career even truly began. Imagine being Tiny Harris. You are the glue. You are the one who has sat through the trials, the prison bids, and the scandals. You've built an empire alongside your husband, and you've raised your children in the blinding light of reality TV. But suddenly the lights go out. The calls started coming in the middle of the night. Private numbers. No caller ID. Just a voice on the other end, cold, calculating, and victorious. 50 Cent didn't want money. He has billions. He didn't want a versus battle. He wanted a trophy. He told Tiny plainly, I have enough to bury them both. I have the paperwork T.I. doesn't want the feds to see. I have the video King thinks he deleted. And I'm pressing upload tomorrow morning. Can you feel the walls closing in? Tiny Harris wasn't looking at a rival. She was looking at a predator who had her family's life in his hands. She watched her husband T.I. pacing the floors, trying to maintain his king persona while his eyes betrayed a soul-crushing fear. She watched her son, King, oblivious and loud, not knowing his entire world was one click away from shattering. The atmosphere in the Harris house turned cold. The laughter stopped. The cameras for their reality show were turned off, but the real drama was just beginning. Tiny knew her husband's pride would never let him beg. She knew T.I. would rather go down in a blaze of glory than ask 50 Cent for mercy. But a mother operates on a different frequency. A mother doesn't care about pride when her child's life is on the line. Late one rainy Tuesday in February, Tiny made a decision that would haunt her forever. Without telling her security, without a word to T.I., she stepped into a black SUV. Her destination? A private, undisclosed location where 50 Cent was waiting. She wasn't there as a celebrity. She wasn't there as an escape singer. He was there as a shield. When she walked into that room, 50 Cent didn't have a camera crew. He didn't have his usual entourage of trolls. He just had a laptop open on the table. He showed her the files. He played the audio. He showed her the digital guillotine he had prepared for her family. What do you want? She whispered, her voice trembling. 50 Cent leaned back, a dark smile playing on his lips. He knew he had won. He didn't want her jewelry. He didn't want her music rights. He wanted the ultimate submission. He wanted to know that the King of the South's wife had to come to him to save the throne. I want the one thing T.I. can never take back, he reportedly said. I want you to stay. One night of total silence, and these files disappear forever. The silence in that room was deafening. In that moment, Tiny Harris had to choose. She could walk out, keep her dignity, and watch her husband and son be led away in handcuffs within 48 hours. Or she could stay. She could sacrifice her own body, her own sanctity, and her own marriage to ensure that her son could keep dreaming and her husband could keep his crown. She looked at the photo of her children on her phone screen. The bright eyes, the innocent smiles. Then she looked at the man who held the match to their entire lives. With tears streaming down her face, Tiny Harris put her phone face down on the table. She turned off the location tracking. She chose the unthinkable. She stayed. As the sun began to rise over the city, Tiny Harris walked out of that building a different woman. She had saved them. The files were supposedly deleted. The threat was gone. But as she drove home in the gray morning light, she realized the cost was higher than she ever imagined. She had bought their freedom with her soul. She had protected the Harris legacy, but she had created a secret so dark it was already starting to rot from the inside out. Little did she know, 50 Cent was never planning on keeping his end of the bargain. He wasn't just a businessman, he was a monster. He didn't just want the night. He wanted the aftermath. And the nightmare for Tiny Harris was only just beginning. The aftermath of a secret is often more violent than the secret itself. When Tiny Harris pulled into the driveway of the Harris estate that morning, the sun was shining, but for her the world had turned pitch black. She walked through the front door, her body aching, her mind fractured, and her eyes refusing to meet the gaze of the man she had just sacrificed everything to protect. Kai was sitting in the kitchen, a glass of water in his hand, looking like a man who hadn't slept in a century. He looked at her, really looked at her, and the air in the room vanished. He didn't ask where she was. He didn't ask why her phone had been off. In the silence of that kitchen, the intuition of a husband met the devastating reality of a wife's sacrifice. The next 48 hours were a descent into madness. Tiny tried to act like the deal was done. She told herself that the files were gone, that King was safe, that the feds would never knock on their door. But 50 Cent isn't a man who plays by the rules of mercy. He is a master of the long game. He didn't just want Tiny's submission. He wanted to witness the slow, agonizing disintegration of the Harris throne from the inside out. On Thursday afternoon, while the family was trying to maintain a facade of normalcy for the cameras, a notification pinged on every phone in the house. It wasn't a news article. It wasn't a legal document. It was a post from 50 Cent's Instagram. A single blurry photo of a black SUV parked outside an undisclosed location, with a timestamp that matched the exact hours Tiny was missing. The caption was a single sentence that acted like a poison dagger. Some queens will do anything to keep the crown from falling, even if it means sleeping with the enemy. #surviving the Harrises. The explosion was instantaneous. T.I. didn't scream, he erupted. The king persona he had spent decades building shattered into a million jagged pieces. He threw his phone across the room, the screen splintering against the marble wall, mirroring the state of his marriage. He turned to Tiny, his voice a low, dangerous growl that trembled with a pain no one had ever seen. "Tell me it's a lie," he whispered, his eyes searching hers for a denial that wouldn't come. "Tell me you didn't go to him. Tell me you didn't give that monster exactly what he wanted." Tiny stood there, paralyzed, the weight of the blackmail pressing down on her chest until she couldn't breathe. She wanted to tell him about the files. She wanted to explain that she did it for him, for their son, for the legacy. But how do you explain the unthinkable to the man you love? How do you tell a king that his queen had to trade her sanctity to keep him off the gallows? Then King Harris burst into the room. The 21-year-old was shaking, his face pale as he stared at his own phone, watching the internet dismantle his mother's character in real time. The comments were a bloodbath. The memes were already circulating. The world was laughing at the Harris family's most private tragedy. King looked at his mother, the woman who had been his shield his entire life, and for the first time he saw a stranger. "Is this why he stopped posting about me, Ma?" King's voice broke, a raw, teenage vulnerability cutting through his tough guy exterior. Did you go to him to save me? I didn't ask for this. I'd rather be in a cell than know you did that." The guilt was a physical force, hitting Tiny so hard she collapsed onto the floor, her sobs finally breaking through the wall of shock. The Harris household, once a symbol of Southern royalty, had officially become a battlefield. T.I. walked out of the house, leaving the gates wide open, driving into the night with no destination. King locked himself in the studio, the sound of glass breaking and objects being thrown echoing through the vents. And Tiny sat in the center of the wreckage, realizing that 50 Cent's plan was perfect. He hadn't just leaked a rumor. He had planted a bomb in the heart of their home. He didn't need to release the files anymore. He didn't need the feds. He had done something much worse. He had turned the hero of the family into the source of its greatest shame. He had forced Tiny to buy their freedom with a currency that Ti's pride could never accept. As the moon rose over the estate, the silence was louder than any diss track. The Harris legacy wasn't being destroyed by an outsider. It was being ripped apart by the very love that was supposed to protect it. 50 Cent was sitting in a penthouse somewhere watching the world burn, knowing that Into the Part was going to be the final nail in the coffin. The silence that followed the explosion in the Harris household was more terrifying than the shouting. It was the silence of a grave. By the time the sun began to set on the third day, the world felt like it was ending for Tiny Harris. T.I. hadn't returned. His car was spotted at a private hangar, but his phone remained dead. King had stopped screaming. He was now just a ghost in the hallways, his eyes hollow and red, refusing to even look in his mother's direction. Tiny sat in her dressing room, surrounded by the awards, the platinum plaques, and the photos of a life that no longer existed. Then the final blow landed. 50 Cent wasn't done. He had promised to delete the files, but in the world of power moves, a promise is just a lie you haven't been caught in yet. At 7 p.m., a link was dropped across every major platform. It wasn't just a post, it was a digital execution. The title read, "The Harris Receipts, Part 1 of the Unspoken Truth." Tiny's hands shook as she clicked it. It wasn't just the footage of her SUV. It was everything. The files 50 had shown her, the ones she thought she had bought with her soul, were being streamed to millions. There was the paperwork detailing T.I.'s alleged cooperation from years ago, side by side with the very video of King Harris that Tiny had tried to bury. 50 Cent had taken her sacrifice and used it as the ultimate marketing tool for his documentary. He had used her to validate the very scandal she was trying to hide. The realization hit Tiny like a physical strike to the heart. She hadn't saved them. She had only added her own tragedy to their downfall. She had given 50 Cent the one thing his documentary was missing: a narrative of desperation. The internet was no longer just talking about T.I. being a snitch or King being wild. They were talking about a wife who had sold herself for a lie. Suddenly, the front door slammed open. T.I. was back. But he wasn't the man who had walked out. He looked defeated, his signature swagger replaced by a slumped, broken posture. He walked straight to the dressing room and stood in the doorway. He didn't look at the laptop. He looked at Tiny. "He dropped it all," he said, his voice a dry rasp. "Everything you did, everything you gave up, it was for nothing. He was always going to destroy us. He just wanted to see if he could break you first." Tiny couldn't even speak. The tears had run dry. "I just wanted my son to be free," she whispered. "I just wanted you to keep your name." T.I. let out a laugh that sounded more like a sob. "My name is gone, Tiny. And now so are we." In that moment, the king of the South didn't look like a king. He looked like a man standing in the ruins of a burning castle, realizing he was the one who had invited the fire inside. The fallout was instantaneous. Within an hour, major brands began releasing statements distancing themselves from the Harris family. The final album, Kill the King, which was supposed to be a victory lap, was being pulled from streaming playlists. But the professional loss was nothing compared to the personal one. King Harris walked into the room, a suitcase in his hand. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't ask for money. He just walked past his parents and out the front door, the sound of his footsteps on the gravel driveway sounding like the final notes of a funeral march. As the night grew deep, Tiny and T.I. sat in the dark of their massive living room. They were still billionaires. They were still legends. But they were alone. 50 Cent had achieved the impossible. He hadn't just won a beef, he had dismantled a legacy. He had shown the world that no matter how high you build your throne, the truth, or the perception of it, can tear it down in a single night. Tiny looked at the empty hallways of her home and realized that the secret night hadn't just cost her her dignity. It had cost her the very family she was trying to save. The documentary was still trending. The world was still watching. And as the credits rolled on the first part of their public destruction, Tiny Harris finally understood. In a war with a monster, the only way to save your soul is to never let him into the room. But for the Harris family, it was too late. The room was empty, the fire was out, and all that was left was the ash of what used to be royalty. Now, I have to ask you, and I want you to be honest with yourself. After witnessing the total collapse of one of hip-hop's greatest dynasties, where do you stand? Is Tiny Harris a hero who martyred her own soul to save her husband and son from a cage? Or did her choice to sleep with the enemy officially sign the death warrant for the Harris legacy? We've seen the receipts. We've heard the whispers. And we've watched 50 Cent dismantle a kingdom with a single laptop and a cold, calculated plan. But the real jury isn't in a courtroom, it's right here in the comments. I am reading every single one of your thoughts because this story is bigger than music. It's about the high cost of fame and the devastating price of a mother's love. Do you believe 50 Cent went too far by weaponizing Tiny's sacrifice? Or was T.I.'s king persona always a house of cards waiting to fall? If you feel the weight of this tragedy, if your heart broke for Tiny as she watched her son walk out that door, then you need to let your voice be heard. Don't let this be the last chapter you read. This story is evolving by the minute, and the fallout from the Secret Nights documentary is just beginning to hit the industry. If you want to stay in the loop as the receipts continue to leak and the Harris family fights for whatever is left of their name, you have to hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on those post notifications so you never miss a deep dive into the shadows of the industry. Like this video if you think the truth, no matter how painful, needed to come out. And most importantly, share this with someone who still thinks celebrity life is all gold and glamour. Show them the ash. Show them the cost. The throne is empty. The king is fallen. And the queen is in exile. What happens next? You'll find out here first. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next breakdown of the messiest war hip-hop has ever seen.